What Abraham started, Christ took to the next level. Christianity consolidated the philosophy of slavery to enable the eventual rise of civilization to its present dominance. In so doing, it distanced itself even further from reality and natural law than its two related religions. While the objective of Abraham was to achieve success in this world through his alliance with a God that required him to be willing to kill his child as proof of obedience, Christ minimized the importance of this world. He was not advising people how to live so as to maximize the self-replication of their genetic information on this planet. He advised his followers how to best gain access to another reality of eternal life and eternal salvation. As a function of this, his message went contrary to much that is intuitive for a living creature. He taught that the meek would be blessed, that one should love one's enemies, and that one should turn the other cheek to those that do one harm, in order to offer them the opportunity to harm them again. He encouraged his followers not to use their logical faculties to judge others, for fear that they too would be judged. He taught that the first would be last and the last would be first at the time of Judgment Day, and that he who humbles himself would be exalted. He stated that the one who loves his life will lose it, but the one who hates his life in this world will receive eternal life. All of these messages signify a pathetic resignation to the impossibility of the achievement of anything worthwhile in this life and on this planet. What joy one might obtain here would simply be due to anticipation of the ecstasy that the kingdom of heaven apparently offered those chosen few who were devoted and fortunate enough to receive it. The focus was changed from this life and world to that which awaited it, a state without death or suffering. The main point that Christ stressed over and over was that giving importance to the reality of this world was the greatest sin that an individual could commit and a sure way to prevent oneself from obtaining eternal salvation. The reality of Abraham had been taken one step further. Having declared one's allegiance to God by being willing to kill one's offspring, the next step was to disclaim any interest at all in one's life on earth. Christ led by example. If one is to believe the story, he was some kind of alien. He was born of a virgin whose uterus was used as an incubator to enable this God to be born in human form. He was, therefore, not the product of sexual reproduction, and also not the descendant of the one-celled organisms that eventually evolved into apes. He certainly was out of the dynamic of genetic preservation and self-replication that all of the rest of us experience. One has to wonder if his body even operated using a gene-based system. According to the story, all that can be said is that he had a human form but, clearly, was not one of us. In that regard, his conduct on the planet reveals his lack of interest in ensuring the continuance of his genetic information. He yearned to be up on the cross. His position is well exemplified by his approach of non-resistance during his trial and execution. He allowed himself to be humiliated and abused, and furthermore went willingly to his execution. A human who valued his pride when confronting a situation in which no escape is possible would have refused to play along and either forced his captors to kill him on the spot or to carry or drag him to his execution. Pride, however, implies a caring for oneself and one's life. Instead, the message of Jesus, shown through his death and resurrection, was that he was victorious. His captors could not really kill or harm him because through his obedience to God he was rewarded with eternal life. Life on earth was simply a test of obedience and otherwise of no inherent value whatsoever. The more one denies oneself in the name of God, the greater one's chance of receiving eternal life and freedom from suffering. Selflessness became the supreme virtue. He told his followers to give generously to those who could not repay a kindness, for the very reason that they could not give repayment, because one's repayment would be received at Judgment Day. He also said that they had to renounce all that they had and to hate their relatives, and even their own lives in order to be his disciples. A true Christian would spend its existence seeking out the most vile and pathetic creatures on the planet in order to serve them tirelessly. It would simultaneously strive to discover any additional means to deprive itself of any earthly pleasure, praying continuously for the end of the universe and the wonderful day of judgment. A true Christian would do everything in its power to imitate its leader, to find itself also up on a cross. It is obvious that such an approach to reality is in fundamental conflict with a healthy agenda of any living organism. Only those who have given up on any hope for meaning or pleasure on this planet, who perceive life as an endless process of pain and suffering, who have come to hate the world and life, who consider themselves to be powerless pawns and desperately just want a way out and someone to take them away from all of this, could be drawn to such an ideology. In short, caged human animals. Slaves. It is clear that Jesus Christ was a very delusional individual. Likely due to the reality of his illegitimacy, he suffered from profound feelings of lack of self-worth, which he strove to neutralize through his coping mechanism of perceiving himself to be the Son of God sent to earth to save the sinners of the world. By becoming a martyr and proving himself not to be of this world, he strove to validate his existence. He genuinely cared about nothing else, because of his degree of mental illness and the importance of his coping mechanism to neutralize his inner discomfort. Apart from the tenacity of his commitment to his coping mechanism, Jesus Christ was bereft of any admirable qualities. He was a very sick man who could not succeed in life and embraced the anti-life to an extreme degree. As has been the case with mystics and miracle workers for centuries, he found others who fed into and aided him in his delusional state. They did what had to be done to establish him at the time and to carry on his legacy, altering and embellishing the facts as needed. Jesus has consistently been worshipped by slaves. He appealed to the hopeless, who had had nothing left to lose and felt that they had nothing truly to gain on this planet either. Paradoxically, their rejection of life empowered them. Just as the kamikaze pilot or terrorist is the hardest to defend against because it is prepared to do what any life-desiring individual would not, the followers of Christ were zealots for their faith. If they were tortured or killed for it, that would only increase their probability of receiving eternal salvation in heaven. As a result, the usual measures taken to repress their beliefs were less successful than with other groups. Like their founder, they were suicides who sought martyrdom. Nonetheless, their religion would likely have remained only a fringe group if it had not been for the intervention of politics. In the 4th century, the leaders of a Roman Empire in trouble recognized that the Christian faith encouraged discipline, obedience, and selflessness. They realized that by making it the religion of the state, these slave-like qualities could be encouraged among the people and used to sustain the faltering regime that they led. They thus institutionalized the values of Christianity by making it the religion of the empire. Obviously, not all the subjects of the empire would have the same degree of religious devotion as the initial Christians. Nonetheless, the Romans realized that this religion, with its slave agenda, could be used to maintain the machine of the empire as it needed to protect itself from its destruction, from without and within. Ironically, the Roman Empire did come to an end not very long afterwards, but this institutionalization of the Christian religion allowed it to become one of the most enduring remnants of the empire. Due to the commitment of its followers and its obvious utility in helping to keep the human apes in their domesticated form, the Christian religion has been embraced over and over again by the leaders of many civilizations to this day. In the times of colonialization, the standard approach when the explorers found new land was to send the priests out shortly afterward in order to subvert the beliefs and customs of the indigenous people. By perverting the minds and values of these somewhat uncivilized humans, they became more amenable to the conquest and domestication which followed. There has never been a more destructive belief system than Christianity in terms of the quantity and quality of damage done to life on this planet, due to the values which it promotes and its followers' actions based on those values. Christianity is the perfect zoo morality. This program has briefly focused on certain aspects of Western religions. It should be understood, however, that religions have been used over and over again by all civilizations to instill obedience and fear into the domesticated human animals in order to best achieve the objectives of the zookeepers.